The idea of bringing somebody into my home to like open up my junk drawer and to see all the crazy stuff and ways that I've stored things. I mean, I am like a piles person for sure. I seem organized, but like in the drawer, it's a disaster. And I know that about myself, but I don't know how comfortable I would feel having somebody else who like isn't my husband to see that. And I always say I'm going to set aside the time, and I usually never do. And then it just keeps staying a problem. And so I'm wondering, do you have anything, any piece of advice or like any wise words for those of us who are afraid of bringing someone else who can guide us through that process?
Definitely. First, help me, Kari. You're not alone. I think that's probably the prevailing sentiment with everyone. It's very private and an area that people hold a lot of like shame around. And I guess several things to say. First off, just like friendships and relationships, you need to find someone that you vibe with. And you can very quickly, like on a first date, sense whether you are trusting someone and they make you feel comfortable. And that, almost like a therapist, you find someone that works for you. There's many organizers out there and you need to find the one that works for you. And so if you're not put at ease kind of right away by them, then that may be an indicator to look for someone else to help you.
Yeah.
But also, generally speaking, people are in this role because they want to help you and they're very understanding. They've also seen it all. Like nothing you show them is going to be strange. And then I guess on top of that too, and this is another common misconception, it's not about minimalism. There are no preconceived notions about what your space should look like or be like beyond that they should support the life you want. So you get to define all of those rules. And so if you like your piles and the piles work for you, fantastic. I'm not coming in to tell you to not have piles. It's my job to ask you the right questions to figure out what is stressing you out about your space.
Yes.
Maybe that's not stressing you out. Maybe it's just that you don't know what's in it. Okay, well, like, let's sort it out. Okay, now you know what's in it. That's the goal.
Yes.
And so you get to define those things. It's not about feeling ashamed of what your surroundings are like.
Okay.
It's how can I help you meet the goals that you have?
So even if the method of my home looks different than say your home, you're not coming in to make my home act the way that like you see it in your home. You're going, okay, what are the systems you already have in place that do work and how can we make those work better, like more efficiently?
Absolutely. Because the thing that matters is that it fits your life and that you
keep doing it.
Like and want to maintain it.
Yes.
And it can evolve because you will evolve.
Yeah.
But it won't be helpful at all if I swoop in and completely change a lot of things and you are like, well, that doesn't work for me, or that I'm never going to maintain that.
Yes.
There are some tips that are commonly helpful to know. Like people love the like file folding of things, but that's because it makes it more visible and you can see all of like your shirts rather than them being stacked and now you can only see the top and they get all shuffled. Like there's a reason behind those things beyond some of the aesthetics that maybe that is or isn't important to you, but it's about the utility really.
So you're guiding us to you're using a method, but you're guiding us to create a process that's specific to us. That makes me already feel coward to be like, because I know there are certain things when people say buy all of these tools or these organizing things, I go, I don't know how this is going to fit. And what I do, like I do that and then I just let it go and it never works for me. And so it's kind of nice to hear that having a guide who's coming to do this with you is there to make your process that works for you, not a process that works for them.
Definitely. And another thing I really like is that unlike some other processes where maybe like if I swooped in when you weren't even home and I give you a rainbow pantry and then I leave, like my approach is we work one-on-one.
Yes.
And it's like this creative brainstorm.
Collaborative.
It's collaborative.
Yeah.
Not only does that result in a better fit for you in the end, but it empowers you tremendously and that's like one of my favorite things about it is seeing the confidence, because often people are feeling really stuck and maybe ashamed and sad and sheepish at the start and like overwhelmed, like I don't even know where to start. And after even one session, they're making decisions and they're feeling empowered and it's their internal like compass, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes too, often when you feel stuck, you've lost a sense of what you like. Like, I don't know what I like.
It's all what I should do and what should be the right way. And
yes. And so you're starting to discern that back to how that can spill into other parts of your life. And you realize like, I can handle these things.
Yes.
These little things they're little metaphors. They're like, look how much difference. It's also so fun because it's tangible. It's physical. You're moving things. You're seeing this big before and after.
Yes.
And that satisfaction at the end.
I love it. All right. So I have a client. She's lived in this home for like 10 years. You know, a lot can happen in 10 years.
Absolutely.
You accumulate so many things. And so we're planning on listing in the spring. I think when I come in, I say declutter, get rid of things, donate, but I don't have a method that I'm telling them to follow. It's try to empty it out as much as possible. She is downsizing. So she's moving to a much smaller place. And I'm curious, what would you recommend she start with as she looks at downsizing? Kind of this following the same method, or is there a different way, especially as we look at listing?
No, I think that sounds perfect for the KonMari method because it turns that circular thing into the linear.
Yes.
It gives that progressive ability to be more and more okay with releasing things, which is hugely in play in a downsized scenario.
Yes.
And especially after a decade or more of accumulation, there's so much memory, there's so much emotion, perhaps grief, there's feelings of scarcity, there's also this big life transition happening, and all of that is baked into it. So working with someone through that can be hugely helpful.
Yes. I am curious too. Does that mean she's going to take everything, like if you're starting with clothes, right? Because that was the first thing we started with. If you're starting with clothing, does that mean you're bringing all the clothes that she has into one space and you're sorting through them there before you put them back? Or what does that usually look like?
If you want like the full shabam, like got the time and you're just like really ready to emotionally take that, yes, you would put it all, you go through your entire house, every closet, all in one area. Depending on what you're emotionally ready to see, sometimes that is part of it. You're like, yeah, I have a lot of stuff, but then you're like, wow.
Then it's all in your living room.
A lot of stuff.
Like,
it is amazing how much hidden away that even reduces it in your mind. And having it all in one space, wrapping your head around that can help motivate you to say like, okay, I really understand now what I want to take with me. If you're dealing with chunking it up into different times though, which like practically speaking, I would probably go back to that. You can break it up into subcategories.
Yes.
So do all of your tops, do all of your bottoms, do all of your shoes, those kinds of things.
I see.
But collectively clothes, tackle that first.
And that's purely because that muscle, that's how we start training that muscle to make decisions quickly and be more decisive, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's such a fun, helpful tip that I would have never thought about. I will tell you, when we move, I don't fight with my husband more than when we're moving. And it's because we have very different packing and moving styles. He just says, take everything, put it into a box, and then when we like barf it all into the new place, we'll go through it then. Whereas I'm like, no, I want to take everything out that we're not moving, because to me, it feels like then we're moving twice. We have very just different methods. So for my clients who are moving, do you, again, doesn't have to be the right method, but like if you were to recommend something for someone, how do you recommend people do that? Do we organize and purge before, or do you use the new space as inspiration to tackle it once you've moved?
I think if you kind of align with the KonMari ethos, which is that you're keeping things that serve you and bring you value and bring you happiness, that is removed from the storage. So you do that part first, then you find homes for things. You don't fill space just because it's there. That might facilitate a better declutter process, is to not exactly know. Maybe you know, generally speaking, whether, for instance, you need to majorly downsize. Like that's a thing maybe to know, which can help influence your decisions. But to know, okay, I have 5 drawers of this and that in the kitchen. Like, don't worry about that granularity. Think about what you want to take with you. And this is the perfect physical and time-bound, usually, impetus for those discerning decisions. It's what do I physically want to move and carry with me in this new life? It will make the next part so much easier, because all you're doing is packing away things that you wanted to keep. And while you're doing it, because we're going category by category, you'll have packed things like with like.
Do you find that there are specific certain items that people struggle to get rid of, or if there are certain items that like encourage the bleed? For me, for example, I am you posted a reel recently about like digital detoxing. I have so many unnecessary photos on my phone, like so many. I definitely collect there. I definitely collect phone cords, because like I lose it or it gets put in a bag or something, and then I end up just collecting more. And randomly notebooks. I have a lot of notebooks that have like 3 pages written, and then they get put in a drawer somewhere and they never go again. So I'm curious, like, do you have any that stand out that you're like, oh, that's a big one?
All of those really hit home. Some other favorites are samples and like,
how dare you? How dare you come at me like that?
Samples and travel size things, because everyone aspires to use the samples when they travel.
Yes, of course.
So you save them forever, and they expire really quickly. You don't even realize it. And so you end up like 5 years later using that skin mask, because you're like, I want to pamper myself on this trip. And then you're like, oh, this actually isn't really good for my skin anymore. As well as also those like spare buttons you get on clothing.
Yes, and the little spools with thread. All right, so with this question, I'm wondering if you have any projects that were either really challenging or kind of stand out in your mind that you'd share with us.
Yeah, well, I guess not challenging, but more on the funny side. It's just every person. So it's fun to find everyone's one thing that's it's usually a small object. Everyone has one of these that's just hidden everywhere. It's like the confetti item that they have. And it's like, what is your confetti item? So like, for instance, one was little rocks they've collected from trips, scattered unknowingly just throughout the house. So we're constantly finding them. It becomes like this inside joke. Another rock. Yes. Another was chapstick. So many chapsticks.
All the same kind?
Yes. Ooh, what was another one? Oh, spare change, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's the joke of, ooh, more money. Here's another penny. I know for myself, it was bobby pins, which is hilarious because I rarely use them, but they're everywhere.
Yep. Do you have a guilty pleasure clutter item that you hold on to that maybe isn't necessary, but we need to know that you have something that is silly that all of us can feel happy about knowing?
Yes, for sure. Mine is something that started before I became a professional organizer, but now has justified it even more, which is that I collect like little boxes just in case for organizing. Because when you separate them, now they're, instead of going to the container store, it's a divider for a drawer. Or a shoebox becomes a divider for your clothes in a drawer.
You're about to encourage a bad habit for me because I'm like, I'll use this.
This is a good box.
It is, and when they're really nice, like an Apple box.
Yes, Apple boxes are the best. Yes, my internet router box has become like a divider for box. They're very sturdy. A lot of them are, the Apple boxes are aesthetic. They're really nice.
Because the container boxes, like if you go to one of the big name like stores where they sell organizational items, that stuff is expensive.
Yes, you can get really far with some shoe boxes repurposed. And that was the thing too that Marie Kondo really leans into, is using what you have. It's about the utility.
I love it. Last question. Can you share what is the best feeling when you walk out of someone's home that you feel like you've made a big difference? Like, what is the best feeling for you? What do you see in your clients?
My favorite is when I've achieved something that they didn't think was possible in their space. And they know their space so well, and they have been thinking a certain way for so long. And then when you're able to fix that for them, it's a really great feeling. It's mostly it's the confidence that you see in them. They carry themselves differently, even after just like a 4-hour session.
Yes.
They're more optimistic. They feel the momentum. They're like really eager to show it off and to do homework, or to have their family come see what they did, or to tell their friends about it. And like, it's kind of infectious. And they're so excited for another one because they're like, okay, now I can see that this is less overwhelming than it was before.
I'm truly so happy you came into this, because I think that we are so overwhelmed with all of the like TikToks and so people just are like, there's too many things to do. Like no one ever breaks this down. So truly, thank you so much. If you are looking for someone to come in and help you do this method, to guide you through this method, Kari can be found not only on Instagram, she's at refine.organizing on Instagram, and then her website is refine-organizing. So very similar. You can Google her and she will be there to either set up some time to meet with you or to talk you through potential options for organizing and decluttering your own home. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we will talk to you soon.